Raju Rishi, I'm with Sigma Partners. We've been around since 1984. I'll tell you a little bit about my background. I was actually born in India and moved to this country when I was 4. Did not speak a lick of English. And I grew up in Bronx and Queens, and they didn't have any teachers that spoke English, or Hindi, rather. So they put me into a special ed class. And nice people, nothing wrong there, but I knew I didn't belong. So I learned English as quickly as I could, worked very hard, went on to get a couple of degrees at MIT, and my first job out of school was Bell Labs. So I worked at Bell Labs for 5 years. I had a different experience than David. I enjoyed it, but they really couldn't bring any products to market. For 5 years, I worked on IP telephony, IP CRM, IP video, and they didn't bring any of the products to market, so I got a bit frustrated. I threatened to leave, and what they did with good people who threatened to leave is they promoted them into management. So I got into the management side of things, moved up the ranks relatively quickly, and I ran the international markets for their emerging technologies division for a few years. That was a great job. Deep pockets, very entrepreneurial experience, but the travel was pretty gruesome. And my wife came to me one day and said, hey, this year we're going to have kids, whether you're here or not. I thought that was an interesting value proposition, so I wound up leaving. I joined up a couple of colleagues of mine at MIT, and we started a company in mobile enterprise application space in 2000. Rode that wave for a little while, wound up actually selling the company eventually to a competitor, but we got some interesting lessons. We had created mobile applications for service and repair industry. And in the higher education space, there was a ton of break fix. So they have done a service and repair. They got facilities management, physical plant, IT trouble ticketing. And I sat down with the CIO of Clemson University, who was one of our clients, and I said to him, how do you like our product? And he loved it, but he said, I have a much bigger mobile problem on my hands. And he opened up the drapes of his windows, and we looked outside, and we saw about 36 college kids sitting there sunbathing with mobile phones glued to their ears. And I said, what seems to be the problem? And he said, those mobile phones are creating a catastrophic problem on our campus. And I said, why? And he said, we've lost a communication pathway to students. We used to communicate with them through landline phone systems, but they don't plug phones into the wall jacks anymore. So we said, okay, we'll give you an email address, but they auto-forward their email into Yahoo, Gmail, or Hotmail. And they would triage it once a week. So the university said, okay, you can bring your own voice to the table, you can bring your own email to the table, but you can't bring your own portal. So they pumped millions and millions of dollars into the Clemson.edu address. And the students, when they cracked open their laptops, were going to Facebook, YouTube, Daily Jolt, College Humor, not Clemson.edu. So that was a crisis that existed, and we knew mobile was the pathway to create success. So I wound up starting my next venture based on that learning, which was Rave Wireless. And I worked there for about 8 years, and Sigma Partners had always invested in my fund, so I come from the entrepreneurial background of things. Earlier this year, they raised a new fund and decided they wanted to open up a New York office, and so here I am. So, I really am focused on the New York space. I'm focused on entrepreneurs. I'm different than, I think, most VCs in the sense that I have a lot of entrepreneurial background. I've actually started 3 companies. One of which I didn't talk about, and I've advised about half a dozen. Sigma's a little bit of a different behemoth in terms of VC world. We do a lot of Series A and Series B investing. We don't do a lot of seed. We do a bit, but it's a very tiny amount. But every single one of us are entrepreneurs multi-times over. And I think one of the differentiation points that sits around that is that we understand that companies take on different staging mechanics. So, there's stage 0 when you have no revenue, you have an idea, you're trying to put a product together, and the way you manage and guide and help a company along at that stage is different than stage 1 when you started to get revenue and you're looking to repeat the business model, or stage 2 when you're trying to scale, or stage 3 when you're trying to verticalize into different markets and you're trying to accelerate the business in different ways. So we've all been through that, and we understand sort of the dynamics on how to help guide entrepreneurs and CEOs and founding team members on how to do business there. So I'm here in New York. I'm happy to meet you all, and I look forward to talking to you. I know I've talked to many of you already. Thank you.